They believed time was on their side. They believed silence meant surrender. They believed age had softened me into something manageable. They were wrong. At 76, people stop seeing you clearly. They look through you instead, as if you're already becoming part of the furniture, present, but irrelevant. They assume slowness means confusion. That pauses mean forgetting. That quiet means weakness. I let them believe it. Because listening takes less energy than arguing, and patience often reveals more than confrontation ever could. My name is Margaret Hale, and for months, my children spoke about me as though I wasn't fully in the room. My health, my memory, my future, my house, my will, always my will. They talked in lowered voices, careful tones, concerned expressions, performances meant for neighbors, doctors, and each other. They believed I was fading, that I wouldn't notice how often they counted what I owned instead of asking how I felt. But I noticed everything. I noticed how Adam only called to ask about appointments, never about my mornings. I noticed how Livia touched my furniture the way people touch items they plan to take. I noticed how concern slowly turned into strategy. They waited for me to die so they could inherit. I waited for them to lie. The morning it truly began, the house felt unusually still. Not peaceful, alert. Like air holding its breath before a storm. I sat at the kitchen table, pouring tea the way my husband used to like it. Strong. No sugar. If it doesn't wake you up, he used to joke, it's not worth drinking. Henry had been gone 11 years, but habits don't leave just because people do. His chair across from mine stayed empty, yet I still glanced at it sometimes, half expecting him to raise an eyebrow and silently tell me to stand my ground. At exactly 9:17 a.m., the phone rang. Adam always called at the same time. Predictable. Efficient. Like I was a task on his calendar. I let it ring twice before answering. Mom, he said, too quickly. How are you feeling today? Not how are you. Not did you sleep well? Just how are you feeling? A question disguised as care, aimed directly at my lifespan.
Infine, he replied calmly.
Just made tea. A pause. Papers shuffling. He always did that when preparing to ask what he actually wanted. And you remember your appointment tomorrow, right? There it was. Yes, I said. My memory hasn't disappeared yet. A soft laugh followed, the kind people use when they believe they're being patient with someone incapable. Of course, Mom. Just checking. 2 minutes later, the call ended. That was his limit now. I stared at the phone for a moment after it went silent. Once, after Henry passed, Adam used to stay on the line just to hear my voice. He'd ask about the garden, the neighbors, even the stray cat under the porch. Now, he checked on me the way people check expiration dates. 30 minutes later, Livia arrived. She didn't knock. She never did anymore. Mother, she called, stepping inside with a brightness that felt practiced. I brought the supplements I told you about. She placed the bottle on the counter like an offering. Like proof. You know how confusing medications can get at your age, she added lightly. I watched her move through my kitchen, opening drawers that weren't hers, scanning shelves with eyes that measured worth instead of memory. Her hand paused on the oak cabinet Henry had built himself decades ago. She touched it gently. Too gently. I've been thinking, she said casually. Have you ever considered moving somewhere? Simpler? Assisted living maybe. Somewhere safer. There it was again. I don't need help, I said quietly. She smiled, a thin, knowing smile. Mother, you live alone. The stairs are steep. The house is large. And valuable, I added. Her smile faltered for just a second. That was when I understood. They weren't cruel. They were convenient. They didn't want me gone because they hated me. They wanted me gone because it made their lives easier. And that realization changed everything. After Livia left, the house settled into a silence so thick it felt physical. Not empty, watchful. I sat in Henry's old chair and ran my fingers along the armrest where his hand used to rest. The wood was worn smooth from decades of use. They're circling, I whispered to no one. For the first time in months, something sharp stirred inside me. Not anger. Not grief. Clarity. The kind that straightens your spine and reminds you who you were before the world started speaking over you. I had survived more than they remembered. I had buried a husband, raised 2 children, worked nights, paid off this house inch by inch. Life had never broken me. It had only taught me to wait. Let them think I'm slow. Let them think I'm fading. Let them think patience means surrender. Because I was waiting for proof. I got it that afternoon. Adam arrived without calling. That alone told me everything. His car door slammed harder than necessary, the sound echoing through the driveway like frustration made physical. He walked in without knocking, his smile already stretched into something rehearsed. "Mom," he said brightly. "Thought I'd stop by. See how you're holding up." "Still breathing," I replied, but he blinked. Just once. Long enough to wonder whether I was joking or reminding him of something inconvenient. He followed me into the living room, eyes scanning shelves, walls, photographs. I recognized the look immediately. Livia had worn it earlier. Inventory. His gaze landed on the cedar chest Henry built 50 years ago. My jaw tightened. "So," Adam began, clearing his throat, "we should probably talk about your paperwork." "What paperwork?" I asked. "You know," he said smoothly. "House documents. Bank accounts. Medical directives. Just in case. Just in case I die." I lowered myself into Henry's chair. The leather sighed beneath me. "Why are you suddenly so interested?" I asked. He smiled tightly. "Mom, don't make this sound dark." But it was dark. His eyes were too alert, too eager. He wasn't checking on me. He was checking how long he had to wait. "With your memory slipping," he added carefully. "What memory?" I asked. A flicker of irritation crossed his face. "Well, Livia mentioned." "Livia mentions many things," I said calmly. He shifted, changed tactics. "This house is too big for you," he said. "Something could happen. A fall. An accident." "Then why aren't you fixing the railing?" I asked. "Why are you asking about deeds?" He stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. "You're being difficult," he muttered.
No, irraplia.
"I'm being alive." He sighed heavily, as if my continued existence were exhausting. Then he did something revealing. He turned toward the stairs. "Are those safe for you?" he asked casually. "Maybe I should check upstairs. See what you keep there." I stood faster than he expected. "You will not go upstairs," I said. He froze. "You are a guest in this house," I continued. "My house. When I need help, I will ask. Until then, you will not touch anything." His expression hardened. "Mom," he said slowly, "you're starting to sound confused." There it was. The first lie spoken aloud. The first brick in the wall they intended to build around me. Something cold settled into place inside my chest. Not fear, not sadness. Certainty. He left shortly after, tires spitting gravel as he pulled away. The house felt bruised when he was gone. That evening, the phone rang again. "Livia." "Mother," she said gently. "Adam says you seemed unsettled today." Unsettled. The word pressed like a thumb against a bruise. "What exactly did he tell you?" I asked. She exhaled theatrically. "That you forgot your appointment time. That you accused him of things that didn't happen." I closed my eyes. Their story was forming. Mother is slipping. Mother is confused. Mother needs help. "None of that is true," I said. A pause. "Well," she replied softly, "memory changes are normal at your age." Cold anger spread slowly beneath my skin. "Do you hear yourself?" I asked. "Yes," she answered quickly. Too quickly. "Adam and I are on the same page. We just don't want things to get complicated later." Complicated. Another word that meant control. After the call ended, I sat in the dim light and understood something crucial. They weren't mistaken. They were preparing. So I did something they didn't expect. I opened the drawer beneath the stove, the one no one ever checked, and pulled out a small leather notebook. I began to write. Every word. Every lie. Every shift in tone. Not because I was scared, but because soon, they would claim I remembered things wrong. And I intended to prove I didn't. The next morning arrived gray and colorless, the kind of light that makes everything feel older than it is. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, brushing my hair slowly, watching silver strands catch the dull glow. 76 years stared back at me. But my eyes were clear. At 11 o'clock, I had an appointment with Dr. Hawthorne. Normally, I disliked doctor visits, not from fear, but from what they represented now. Evidence. Observation. Records. Adam had turned my health into a strategy. Still, avoiding the appointment would only strengthen their story, and I refused to help them write it. I arrived early. I always do. Age doesn't make you slow. It makes you deliberate. The waiting room smelled of disinfectant and old paper. A young couple sat across from me, whispering excitedly about a baby on the way. I watched them with something like envy, not for their youth, but for their certainty that the future belonged to them. When my name was called, I stood without assistance. The nurse smiled with polite surprise. Dr. Hawthorne looked up as I entered, glasses perched low on his nose. A kind man, but cautious, the kind who balanced compassion with paperwork. "How have you been feeling, Margaret?" he asked. "I sleep. I eat. I remember my name," I said evenly. "And I remember when people try to take what isn't theirs." He blinked. "Your son called yesterday," he said carefully. "He mentioned concerns." "Of course he did. What concerns?" I asked. He flipped through his notes. Forgetfulness. Agitation. Accusations. The room cooled, not from temperature, but from realization. It's one thing to suspect betrayal. It's another to see it written in ink. "Doctor," I asked quietly, "do I seem unstable to you?" He studied me. My posture. My voice. The steadiness of my hands. "No," he said finally. "You're fully lucid." I exhaled. "Then please note that someone is lying about me," I said. He didn't argue. He didn't ask for details. Some truths are heavy enough without explanation. The appointment ended cleanly. Tests normal. Notes clear. Outside, the wind cut sharply as I walked to my car. A message blinked on my phone. "Livia, the office said you were confused again. We need to talk." They were building their narrative brick by brick, even when the mortar didn't hold. That evening, they came together. Adam first. Livia seconds later. Like predators who pretend they hunt alone. I didn't rush to the door. I let the bell ring. When I finally opened it, they entered with practiced urgency. "Mom," Livia began. "We spoke to your doctor." "I know," I said.
Adam stepped closer.
"He said you were defensive." "Defensive is what happens when someone feels threatened," I replied. They exchanged a look. "We think it's time to discuss long-term care," Livia said. There it was. "I don't need care," I answered. "You forget things," Adam said. "You misplace things." "Name one," I replied. Silence. They had rehearsed this. But rehearsal collapses when confronted with facts. "We're trying to protect you," Livia insisted. "From what?" I asked. "From myself." That was the quiet accusation beneath every word. I folded my hands. They didn't shake. "You contacted my doctor about cognitive testing," I said.
Adam stiffened.
"What did he say?" Livia asked. "That I'm lucid." Panic flashed across their faces, quick, sharp. "One good day doesn't mean," Livia began. "I've had many," I interrupted. They changed direction. "At least let us organize your documents," Adam said. "Your will. Your accounts." They no longer cared whether the story was convincing, only whether it was useful. "You will not touch my documents," I said firmly. "Mother, please," Livia urged. "You came with assumptions," I said. "You came believing I wouldn't notice." Adam's voice cracked. "We're trying to prevent things from getting out of control." I looked at him steadily. "And what exactly do you think is about to get out of control?" They didn't answer. Because they already believed the lie. After they left that night, the house didn't feel wounded anymore. It felt alert. Like something ancient had awakened inside its walls and was now paying attention. I sat alone in the living room, the light from the lamp pooling softly at my feet. My hands rested in my lap, steady. There was no panic in me. Panic belongs to people who haven't decided yet. I had decided. Suspicion had become certainty, and certainty demands action. I retrieved the leather notebook and added every word from that evening. Every glance they exchanged. Every sentence meant to corner me gently. Lies are dangerous only when they're undocumented. When I closed the notebook, I didn't cry. I picked up the phone. The number had been written on a scrap of paper for months, ever since the first time my instincts whispered that something wasn't right. I hadn't wanted to believe it then.
Moters Harelidu.
A woman answered. Porter and Will's law offices. My name is Margaret Hale, I said. I'd like to schedule a consultation. She offered me a time the next morning. Yes, I replied. That will be fine. I slept poorly that night, not from fear, but from awareness. The kind that sharpens the mind and keeps the body alert. By morning, I felt calm. Ready. The lawyer's office smelled like old carpet and ink. Mr. Porter himself came to greet me, a man in his early 60s, with careful eyes and a listening posture. What can I help you with, Mrs. Hale? He asked. I opened my notebook. I believe my children are trying to have me declared incapable of managing my own affairs. He didn't flinch. That mattered. I told him everything, how concern turned into control, how small disagreements became accusations, how lies were fed to my doctor. This is more common than people think, he said quietly, especially when property is involved. He explained my options. A trust. A medical directive. A power of attorney assigned to someone neutral. A will revision that removed anyone acting under pressure. Timing matters, he said. You must act before they do. I already am, I replied. I signed the first documents with a hand that did not tremble. When I returned home, my phone showed multiple missed calls.
Adam.
Livia. Adam again. A message followed. We're coming tonight. We need to resolve this. Resolve. Another word that meant surrender. I did not reply. That evening, they arrived with urgency thick in the air. This time, they brought someone with them. A social worker. They hadn't warned me. They hadn't asked. Surprises can be difficult at your age, Livia said apologetically. Bring her in, I replied. The woman was younger than I expected, clipboard clutched tightly, smile professionally neutral. The questions came. Name. Date. Address. I answered clearly. Do you feel safe living alone? She asked. Safer than I do with company, I replied.
Adam shiftet beside her.
Do you manage your finances independently? Yes.
Adam interrupted.
She's been struggling actually. Which bills? I asked. Silence. Then the final question. Has anyone pressured you regarding your decisions recently? I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said. My family. The room froze. The social worker looked at them differently after that, not accusing, but cautious. She ended the session quickly. When they left, the house felt taller. They thought the assessment would weaken me. Instead, it exposed them. Later that night, I stood by the window and watched them talking outside, unaware I could hear them. She's sharper than before, Livia said. We need to speed this up, Adam replied. If she changes her will, we're finished. I wrote those words down too. Evidence is only powerful when it's precise. And now finally, I had everything. The next day felt unnaturally calm. Not peaceful, decided. I moved through the house slowly, touching familiar surfaces as if memorizing them in a new way. Not because I was leaving, but because I was reclaiming them. The walls had heard every lie spoken within them. Now they would witness the truth. By late afternoon, a pamphlet appeared in my mailbox. A residential care community. Manicured lawns. Empty smiles. A sticky note was attached. They can help you before things get worse.
No signature. No query.
I folded it once and dropped it into the bin. At sunset, Adam called again. We're coming by tonight, he said. There are documents you need to sign. Documents. Always documents. They arrived at 7 sharp. This time, they didn't pretend. Livia carried a thick folder. Adam's jaw was tight, his patience gone. Sit down, mother, Livia said. Let's go through this. I remained standing. What is it? I asked. Protection, Adam said. For you. Livia slid the first document toward me. A durable power of attorney. It gave them access to everything. I set it aside. The next was a medical authorization. I set that aside too. Adam's frustration cracked through his voice. Stop stalling. I looked at him calmly. You've been planning this for a long time, I said. Livia stiffened. If you don't sign, Adam continued, we'll involve the courts. There it was. The threat disguised as love. I reached into Henry's cabinet and removed a single cream-colored envelope. What's that? Livia asked. I placed it between us. Copies of the legal actions already taken, I said. A trust. A medical directive. A power of attorney assigned to someone who isn't either of you. Their faces drained of color. You did this behind our backs, Adam whispered. Yes, I replied. That's why it will hold. You don't trust us, Livia said. You made sure of that. Adam scanned the papers, his hands trembling now, not with anger, but realization. You've ruined everything, he said.
No, irraplia sufli.
I've preserved it. Silence fell heavy and final. They didn't leave immediately. People never do when their intentions are exposed. They linger, hoping the truth will soften. But it didn't. At the door, Livia turned back. You'll regret this. I shook my head. No. I regret waiting so long. They left without another word. The house exhaled. So did I. The morning after they left felt unfamiliar. Not quieter. Not lighter. Clearer. The kind of clarity that comes after a long storm finally moves on, leaving the air sharp and honest. I woke before sunrise and sat at the kitchen table, holding my tea as the first pale light slid across the floorboards. For the first time in months, I wasn't bracing myself for a phone call. The house was silent, but not wounded anymore. This was a healthy silence. A chosen one. I walked through each room slowly, not as a woman afraid of losing them, but as a woman who finally knew they belonged to her alone. The photographs on the walls no longer felt like evidence. They felt like memories again. By noon, the final papers were ready. Mr. Porter had prepared everything exactly as we discussed. The trust finalized. The will revised. The letters revoking Adam and Livia from any authority over my medical or financial decisions. I signed each page carefully. My hand did not shake. When the courier arrived to collect the envelope, he smiled politely and made a small comment about the weather. I smiled back. Such a small exchange, but it reminded me how rare it had become to be seen as a person rather than a problem. That afternoon, I sat on the porch wrapped in my coat, watching the pear tree sway gently in the cold air. Henry planted it the year Adam was born. It had weathered storms, droughts, neglect, and still stood firm. Like me. I thought about my children, not with anger, but with that quiet sadness that comes when understanding finally replaces hope. They weren't monsters. They were afraid. Afraid of time. Afraid of effort. Afraid of earning what they wanted. They mistook age for surrender. They were wrong. In the evening, I packed a small box. Not to flee, but to prepare. Henry's cardigan. A few photographs. Letters I wanted to keep close. The house would be sold soon. Not out of loss, but choice. I had already found a small cottage near the coast. Nothing grand. Just a place where mornings would belong to me, and the wind could move freely through open windows. As the sun set, I made one final cup of tea in that kitchen. I sat at the same table where they once planned my ending. And I spoke aloud, not for them, but for myself. They waited for me to die so they could inherit, I said softly. But I waited for them to lie, so I could finally live. The cup was steady in my hands. And for the first time in years, so was my future.